also should be providing, and I hope the NATO summit will create an opportunity for this, we should be providing the Ukrainians with the type of defensive weapons that will impose a cost upon Putin for further aggression. There are those in Europe and elsewhere who says, we don't want to provoke Putin. Well, Putin doesn't need provocation. In this case, weakness is a greater provocation for Putin to act than strength.
It would seem the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is finally growing a spine of sorts in answer to Vladimir Putin's latest invasion tactic. But the Russian madman is not about to let it slide casually past his gaze. And the time has come to gaze upon the next step in the Benghazi case, the moment in time every Democrat wishes would just go away. Let us lay out these strategic facts as we welcome back to MidPoint Senior Fellow at the London Center for Policy Research, formerly a proud member of the United States Army, and author of The Last Line, about a terrorist organization using the American southwest border to prep for a mass casualty attack. It's now out in paperback. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer joins us. Lieutenant Colonel, good to see you again.
Hey, thank you for having me on. Good to be on.
Let's start right out here. Tuesday morning, an aide to President Putin of Russia played down but did not deny a report that Putin had told Jose Manuel Barroso, president of the European Commission, quote, "If I want, I will take Kiev in 2 weeks." The comments, they say, were inappropriate, that they were reported to somebody else, and it was an insider's conversation. Any doubt whatsoever that Putin knew that this was going to get out? He is using this as just a point to start talking.
Oh, absolutely, Ed. There's no doubt that this is all part of Putin's plan. We talked about this Friday. This is all part of the larger plan. Putin has been a bully. He continues to be a bully. He has a long-term plan. He's executing that plan with great efficiency. There are bumps like the downing of Malaysian Air 370, but things like that are simply small notes on the side that will allow him to continue to pressure and prep for an expansion of his efforts to overwhelm Ukraine. And frankly, Ed, that's only the beginning. He's a bully, and until someone stands up to him, I think he'll continue to do this. And Senator Menendez is completely correct. No matter which side of the political aisle you're on, appeasement will not work. And I do agree with him. I think we should come up with something like the Lend-Lease Act that we helped Britain and our allies right before World War II to start showing that we are serious about showing up to help.
Could he take Kiev in 2 weeks?
The simple answer is absolutely. But then, as I was told once by General Tony Zinni, when he was asked to do something within 2 weeks by President Clinton, and then what? It's not simply about having the military prowess, hardware, or tactics to achieve a military objective. That you have to deal with the aftermath, the settlement. So I think that is clearly true. It's clearly meant to provoke anger and resentment, but at the same time, it's not realistic. Putin will not take Kiev in 2 weeks. He is not that stupid. He is playing this as a long game, and you will see him continue to nibble away at the edges of Ukraine, just the way he's doing right now. Our only hope, Ed, is stipulated in the opening. NATO needs to grow a backbone. Apparently, they are starting that process. But again, that is only the beginning. You need to do a lot more than simply say you're putting together a 4,000-man reaction force that may or may not be actually available when you need it.
What about Ukraine joining NATO then? What are the chances of them being accepted? And I guess the big question is, if they are accepted, how does this change Putin's tactics?
Well, they're not. NATO is not that going to be that provocative. Simply put, this current summit, Ed, was supposed to be focused on Afghanistan and the future of Afghanistan-Pakistan. It's a complete, black swan that Russia has become the focus of this. So this conference has been planned for a long time. So the very fact that we're now having to refocus on Russia and this issue is something that NATO is going to have to put within context of what they're doing. So simply put, I just don't think that we actually know how we're going to deal with this as a united Western front. And until we figure out the policy and get it right, Putin will continue to be provocative.
Here's a comment that I'm going to read, and the folks here will see it. You'll be able to hear it. This is Valery Haletny, the Ukrainian defense minister. This was on his Facebook page yesterday. Quote, "The operation to free eastern Ukraine from terrorists is over. According to unofficial channels, the Russian side has threatened several times that if resistance continues, they are ready to use tactical nuclear weapons against us." I got to tell you something here, Lieutenant Colonel. That just does not seem as if it's going to be any sort of possibility whatsoever. Tactical nukes against Ukraine, that seems to be nothing more than hyperbole on somebody's side, maybe the Ukrainians, to get NATO and the West to act.
Yes and no, and this is the unfortunate thing about our diminished position in the world, Ed. Two of the things we've been working behind the scenes to do, and there's no secret about this is actually public information. Many of us defense experts, many of we defense experts have been pushing to create something called a reliable replacement warhead. I don't know if you know of anybody who still drives a 79 Pinto. I don't, but that's the level of technology of our missile fleet right now. We've not upgraded or updated, so the credibility of our own nuclear force is a question. Secondly, the willingness to counter something like this. 10 years ago, there had been no doubt that this sort of provocation, the idea of nuclear weapon use, would have been completely passe by the fact that we could have guaranteed a massive retaliatory response. Many nations, to include Europe, are under our protective umbrella. Because of President Obama's lack of resolve, that very system of deterrence is now in question. So 10 years ago, Ed, had this question been brought up, had this threat been put on the table, no one would have even thought twice about it. Now, there is definitely a thought by the Russians that maybe they could use nuclear weapons and maybe they could get away with it. This shows you how far our foreign policies diminished in the eyes of our threat, those who threaten us. I think they may think this is actually credible.
What you just said there, though, was interesting to me. You talked about our own nuclear force not being up to speed, and you likened it to a
Right.
1979 Pinto. Well, first of
Right.
all, I think that's shocking to a lot of people because most Americans would think that our nuclear capability is right up to snuff and where it needs to be at all times. The second thing is, would the Russians then, if we're driving a 79 Pinto, would they be driving a 48 Packard?
No, they've actually upgraded to a 89 to 90 Lotus. No, they've actually done things. But President Obama has not been tracking or honest with the American people. The Russians have violated our existing treaties on multiple issues regarding fourth and fifth generation nuclear weapons. We have tried to live up to our treaty. They have not. And so as we've allowed for the attrition of our nuclear force, one of the frightening things your audience needs to understand that if you go to the Pentagon today, there's not a single office of the Air Force at the Pentagon with nuclear in its title. The Air Force is completely pushing away this issue. We don't have a lot of scientists. The actual people who manage our nuclear weapons capacity are attriting. So this is something that I and others have said we need to actually have more focus on. We're actually going to try to have a summit on this this month on the Hill to bring attention to this. So again, Ed, this is no small issue. Our nuclear weapons need to be at the top of their game. We don't have to have more. We have to have effective, those which we do have to be effective and modernized. And because of the pushback on the Democratic side, no one wants to modernize our weapons, and yet the Russians are moving out and doing that very thing.
Let me go ahead and spin to ISIS here. Sources coming out
Sure.
recently in the last couple of days. President Obama reportedly briefed on ISIS starting more than a year ago. And then again, I know you have some sources as well that you have talked to that talk about the fact that there is just a growing battle going on inside the Obama National Security Team as to exactly what the narrative is.
Right. One of the lessons I've learned here in Washington Ed, is the truth is negotiable. And that's the unfortunate fact of politics here. And because of the politics being so heavy in this, President Obama and his national security team wanting all the ISIS stuff to just go away, they have been given superb intelligence. So this is what happens when bad policy meets good intelligence. It gets ignored. And this is not an intelligence failure. Let me be very clear with your audience on this. The intelligence community is doing the very best it can, at least on the DoD side. What has happened here is President Obama has ignored this threat. It snowballed to the point of where now it's a crisis, and multiple sources, some new which will be coming out, I think, probably within the next 30 days, will confirm that this White House has been briefed repeatedly on the threats which we're facing, and the potential of ISIS becoming a true global threat. We could have acted 6 months ago and done 1/3 as much of what we're going to have to probably do now to actually counter them. But they are growing, and they're being effective in their growth.
I got about 45 seconds left. We're going to talk about this
Sure.
further on down the road. Benghazi, the second anniversary of the attack looms. They're talking about now the proceedings going into 2015 before they actually conclude. What's next, and what do you think we're going to hear next with regard to this investigation?
Three things. First, there's a tell-all book coming out soon from some of the survivors of the Annex attack of the attack of 9/11/12 are coming out. CIA has been trying to sit on it for the last 6 months. It's about to come out. Should come out this month. I expect good new details to come out on that. Secondly, Trey Gowdy and the commission to look at this is now getting underway. They've taken a lot of time selecting the right staff and trying to organize themselves around the real facts of the issue. And third, you're going to see a lot of pushback by the Democrats come November. This is going to be another thing that I think will add to the narrative, I think accurately, that the national security team currently in place under President Obama is not only not effective, they manage everything from the 9/11-12 attacks to the current ISIS situation through a political narrative that has nothing to do with protecting the American people.
Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, always a pleasure to have you on, my friend. We'll do it again real soon.
Sure.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, later on this hour, further proof famous actors don't need simple intelligence in order to be worshipped and glorified, though they apparently need the FBI. And after the break, one city in Minnesota versus the federal government. It's next on MidPoint.